Congratulations to Marlpool Junior School for winning Fishkeeper Fry School of the Year 2025. We had lots of great pictures and work sent to us by all of the schools, and it's always a difficult job for us to choose. But we had to pick one winner, and this year they got it. Their tank is still thriving, and some of the fish have had their own fry, which have been swimming around and hiding amongst the plants. They sent us lots of pictures and updates about how they were getting on, showing us their amazing fish keeping skills and celebrating their Fish Keepers of the Week. They made their own aquariums, and one pupil even made a public aquarium in Minecraft. In June, we took a trip to visit Marlpool Junior School's Fishkeeper Fry class. We had a question and answer session with lots of interesting questions coming up. Then we awarded each pupil who took part their own medal and presented their teacher with the Fishkeeper Fry School of the Year trophy to celebrate them becoming the champions. Well, good afternoon everybody, and thank you for having us. It's nice to meet the winners of 2025 Fishkeeper Fry. So have you all enjoyed it? Yes! You can say no if you like, I won't be too offended.
What inspired you to make your job come true?
Well, I was just about to leave school and I thought, what shall I do for a living? What can I do that people will pay me to do? And of course I was keeping a lot of fish at home, and I was walking into the fish shops and I was asking people really awkward questions about fish, and I thought, I know more about these fish than the people that I'm buying them from. I could do this. So then I started working with fish, and then after a while I worked at a zoo and I ran the aquarium there, and that was fun because they had some great big fish tanks and they had big fish in there, and in order to clean the glass in this big tank I had to get my trunks on and jump in with a snorkel and clean the glass.
Did you like it?
Yeah, and it was lovely in the summer when it was nice and warm. In the winter it was a bit chilly, but yeah, so I did that for a while. And then I started working for Maidenhead Aquatics years ago, and I'm still here. So yeah, so I guess I just wandered into a fish shop and never left, really.
What is the smallest fish in the world?
The smallest fish in the world is a tiny little see-through rasbora, it's called. And it makes little funny clicking noises to communicate, because they don't really do much in terms of colour. So they live in water that's the colour of tea. So it's really murky and they can't see each other very well, and it's great because predators can't see them because they're completely see-through. But in order to communicate with each other, they click and they make little funny clicking noises. So yeah, so that's those.
Why do you like fish so much?
I think it's because in that little glass box is a tiny little world, and it's almost magical. Really, they don't breathe like we do, they don't eat like we do, well, a bit, but you can make this little box into whatever your heart desires. You can have rainbows in there, you can have, like a lot of my tanks, have sticks and leaves, and they look like a swamp halfway across the world. So that's what I love about them, the fact that when you have fish, you can make their own little world, and they'll happily live in it, not knowing whether they're in England or Indonesia.
What's the most dangerous fish in the world?
Oh, probably uncooked salmon.
Yeah.
There are some fish which can sting you, and if you're unlucky enough to be allergic to wasps or bees, then quite often one of those stinging fish could put you in hospital quite easily. So yeah, so always bring your EpiPen if you're around stingy fish. That's the lesson there.
How long can a fish live in an aquarium?
Oh, well, Do you remember the big fish that I used to swim around with when I used to have to clean the glass?
Yeah.
They're called pacu. And they're like piranha, but they get bigger and they eat a lot of fruit and nuts. So they take life pretty slowly. You don't have to be too quick to outsmart a nut. So they live for a very long time. And a friend of mine told me that the pacu that they've got down in Brighton, in the aquarium there, came from Blackpool, and it means that they're about 78 years old now.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, so that's a long time swimming around in big fish tanks. So I don't know how much longer they're going to live for, but they don't look old. So 20 years' time it might be the same answer, but plus 20. We'll find out.
What's the fastest fish in the world?
Well, I reckon that must be one of the sailfish, like a marlin. I don't know if you've seen them, they're swordfish. And they have long spike there. And that means that they're aerodynamic but underwater, which is hydrodynamic. So they're built like a jet plane, and they can swim through water. I think they've been recorded at about 50 miles an hour over short bursts because they catch fish. So yeah, so they're probably the fastest. Unless you put one on a train, then of course it's a lot quicker. A goldfish on a train is still faster than a sailfish.
I know the fish called Goldie.
Ah, cool.
She was keen to see if you had a fish called Goldie yourself.
I have one that was named Goldie before I got him, and he came from the wildlife hospital, and he was unusual in that he was found in the middle of someone's garden. He wasn't even in the water. So I think someone's cat maybe played with him and left him in the middle of the lawn, and then he turned up in a bucket one December, and he's about 5 years old now.
They went from Goldie to Lucky then.
Yeah.
Goodness, wow.
What's your favourite fish?
Oh, there are so many fish. Let's have a think. What's my favourite? There's one fish who is in one of the tanks behind the sofa at home, who regularly watches me while I'm watching TV. And he is a Neolamprologus olivaceus. And he's grey and he's angry looking and he's got quite big teeth.
What's his name?
He doesn't have a name because he's, to be honest, you can't really beat Neolamprologus olivaceus, really. He's pretty big for what he is, and he's got big teeth for fighting with. He doesn't need them because he only eats tiny things, but he's got big teeth and he's very brave, and he just sits there staring at me while I'm trying to do everything else. So he's probably my favourite at the moment.
How do you fishes swim?
How do they swim?
Well, imagine you're an astronaut and you're floating about.
Yeah.
How do you think you would move?
Oh no. Like on this.
Ah, you'd like wave your hands, wouldn't you? Like swimming. And that's the thing. So, normally, fish have a little air bubble inside them called the swim bladder, and that makes them float. But if you're just floating, you end up anywhere, a bit like hot air balloons. So, all of those fins that they have, they've got ones on the top that keep them upright, they've got ones at the back for fast swimming if they need to get away from something, and then they've got little fins on the side that they use for the fine detail work. So it's all in those fins. So if you watch them, it's very rare, apart from the catfish that sink, they don't really have a swim bladder in the same way. So they don't need to swim, so they can just sit there and take it easy. But if you watch the little neons and the platies in there, most of the time, these little side fins are busy. They have like jazz hands. So I suppose you could say fish swim by the power of jazz hands.
How do sea urchins lay eggs, and also how does sea urchins swim?
Well, sea urchins have tube feet. So you know they have all the spikes. In between the spikes, they have these little noodly feet with almost little suckers on the end. And those feet are longer than the spines along the bottom. So the whole thing, it's almost a bit like moving a bit of furniture. So imagine you're on one side of a table and your friend's on another side of the table. In essence, you're like sea urchin feet. So the table's got its own legs, which are a bit like the spines of the urchin, and they don't move at all, whereas your legs are doing all the moving for it. So that's how sea urchins move about. So that tends to be it. And there are some very special sea urchins that have very soft spines, and they're called sea mice. because they look quite furry. And then they've got soft spines that tend to sweep backwards, and they've got lots of little tube feet that then stick out the bottom. So they all shuffle along on about, it's a good job they don't have to buy shoes. They need about 50 of them at a time. The eggs in a sea urchin, their mouth is on the bottom. And you can guess where the bottom is. It's on the top. So when they lay eggs, they come up top in a big cloud. And so you might have one urchin over here laying eggs, and then you have another urchin over there fertilising them, and they never really meet. They just lay their eggs in the water, and then they let the currents do the rest, and then it goes into the plankton. And then after a few months swimming around with their little tube feet, they find a reef, and then they settle down, and they start eating algae and moving tables around.
Why do sea snails have a shell and if the hide isn't?
Well, not all sea snails do have a shell, you know. So some of them, what are they? The haliotis, what are they called? Abalones, have almost like a crash on it. So the whole of the body doesn't fit underneath the shell. And what they think is that they've given up hiding in a shell, so over time the shell gets smaller and smaller and they'll end up more sluggish. That's probably my fish joke.
Hey, there we go, we were waiting on that one. Fantastic. Right, what do we say, guys?
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you. Well done.
Well done to all the students and teachers who took part this year, and we hope the programme inspired many lifelong passions for keeping fish. If your school would like to take part in Fishkeeper Fry 2026, visit our Fishkeeper Fry page to find out how. You can also find further details of the programme and check out the work other schools have completed.